finally broke all of the fear I had of attending a church. So I was invited by a friend to attend a church in the city where I live, in West Covina. And I walked in one night on a Wednesday evening, and I didn't feel the least bit nervous. I didn't feel any trepidation about walking in. The people were pleasant. It was just a really positive experience. But it was a lot different from what you see in a Kingdom Hall. When they had the praise and worship at the beginning of the service, they had a big worship band, and people stand on their feet and they're clapping, and I almost felt guilty. I felt like, you're not supposed to enjoy church this much. And there was the pastor did an altar call for people who are there for the first time, and there's this big burly guy standing next to me with all these tattoos and a wife beater, and he's nudging me going, "Get up there, brother," and he kind of pushed me up there. And these sermons are broadcast on local TV, and so I'm walking up with my paranoid jade, I'm thinking, some witness is going to be flipping through the channel and see me at this church. But it was a positive experience. But the thing was, as I was attending, I wasn't feeling it, and I eventually realized I was just kind of going through the motions, kind of like when I was a witness. I was just kind of I was trying to get this relationship with God by reading and studying and memorizing information. I was trying to get this experience, this relationship with God via the intellect, and I realized that, I was just being dishonest, and I didn't think I just really belonged. A major block was them always talking about the Trinity all the time, and I just felt separate. I didn't feel like I belonged, and so I stopped attending. And for a while, I just sort of drifted, and for a long time, I became an agnostic. I didn't want to have anything to do with anything religious. I didn't want to have anything to do with the Bible. I was processing through a lot of the negative emotions I had from leaving the Watchtower. I felt a lot of betrayal, just a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, and I had a lot of anger at Christianity. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I just was living my life, and I noticed that I felt empty inside, and I just felt just so spiritually unfulfilled. I had that spiritual hunger, but there was nothing to fulfill it. I wasn't even sure if God existed, and I was actually on the verge of becoming an atheist. And but one thing that I did was, during this period of time, something started eating at me that I needed to have a talk with my dad. I worked with my dad at his printing business. He'd been inactive for about 12 years. Growing up, I had really judged him harshly. I judged him because he wasn't active in the organization. He didn't reach out to be a ministerial servant or elder. He didn't comment at the meetings. And I really looked down on him. And I think he probably knew that. He could probably sense that. And I had a lot of disdain for him growing up. And one day, I felt moved. I had to apologize for judging him that way, because now I knew what the organization was really about. And so many witnesses don't progress in the organization because they're not spiritually fulfilled. And I realized that was probably the case with him. He didn't know how to jump through all these hoops because it just wasn't fulfilling to him. It wasn't giving him what he needed. So one day and this was really difficult to do. I believe that God directed me to do this because it was so difficult to do. And I pulled him aside. I said, "I needed to talk to you." I said, I want to apologize for all those years that I judged you for not being a good witness, for not being a good organization member. I judged you. I looked down on you for not being a ministerial servant and an elder. I looked down on you because you weren't like the other brothers in the congregation. Now I see the organization for what it really is, and I'm so sorry that I did that to you. And that was one of only 2 times that I'd ever seen him cry. And we hugged, and we said we loved each other. I believe I was moved to do that because three months later he died suddenly of heart failure. And I felt so grateful that I got to do that, because when he died, I knew there was no unfinished business between us. And not too long after this, I still was just very spiritually unfulfilled. But I noticed that I knew some Christians who, they just had this strength, this inner glow about them, and it was genuine. It wasn't fake. It wasn't put on. People that I saw at the ex-witness group that I was attending, some personal friends that I knew, they just had this inner strength, this joy, this glow about them, even despite going through trials and hardships, and they were humble about it. It was sort of a quiet, peaceful, serene power that they had, and I could sense that in some people. And I said to myself, I can't deny that's not real, that there's something to that, and I wanted that. I was getting more and more depressed, and one night I had lost all purpose in life. This was back in September of 2009, and one night I just couldn't sleep. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I went out for a walk, and went walking through the neighborhood, and walked into this big skate park that's by my house. It was vacant and dark, and so I knew I was all alone. And so I'm standing in the middle of this skate park with all these ramps and half pipes around me, and I just started to pray out loud. And at that point I just broke, and I just surrendered whatever I thought I knew, whatever assumptions and presumptions I had, and I prayed to Jesus. I said, I don't know if you're real, I don't know if you exist, but if you are, I want a personal relationship with you. I need a relationship with you. I really need you in my life. If you're there, I call upon you, and I ask you to please come into my heart, come into my life. I need you. Nothing happened. About 2 nights later, just out of nowhere, I was by myself, and this unbelievable, powerful presence came over me. It not only filled me, it just completely enveloped me. It just filled the entire room. And it was this feeling of just infinite love, strength, but at the same time this softness. And it was so overwhelming that it was unbelievable. It was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And the next night I was praying, and this same presence came upon me again when I was praying. And it happened a couple more times. And one night I was praying, and I know this may be objectionable to some ex-witness Christians, because I may not be able to provide the proof texts to back this up. I may not be able to provide the intellectual reasoning and rationale to prove this and to legitimize this. But when I was praying one night, when that powerful presence came over me, just in an instant, the Trinity made absolute perfect sense to me. In the blink of an eye, it just made sense. And I can't articulate how I know that it makes sense. It's not something that I can explain to someone to their own satisfaction. And it's not something that I can provide a bunch of proof texts to satisfy someone's demands for evidence for that. I can only prove that what I experienced, and that's all I can testify to. I can only tell you what happened to me. And from that day forward, I knew something had radically changed in me. There was a new strength, because when my dad died suddenly, immediately, I just had the strength to take charge. And when he died, I had to go in the next morning and start running his business. And that's something I never thought I would do. I had my brothers who were witnesses and my mom, they approached me and they said, we're amazed that you handled this. We don't know how you handled this. And my mom, who's a devout witness, I said, well, it's Holy Spirit doing it. And she got a real, uncomfortable. I could tell she was very uncomfortable. She said, well, my brothers were praying for us too. So I said, well, okay. I could just feel that there was this new peace, this new strength that was in me, and it wasn't anything that I did. It was just something that happened to me. And I even had a personal friend tell me recently, he says, because I told him about this experience, he says, I noticed you even look different physically. He says, I could tell something had changed in you. And after this happened, I would begin going back to that same church, and now I didn't feel separate from people anymore. I enjoyed it now. I really felt a connection with the other people in the church. And I can't say that I fall in line with all Orthodox doctrines. I can't say that, and I don't say that to be disrespectful or anything. I'm just explaining where I'm at right now. But I only know that I have a personal relationship with Christ that is real, and that I know I can count on it. And every day I pray for guidance, just of knowledge to do God's will and to help people. And right now, I don't involve myself in helping ex-witnesses right now. Emotionally, I don't feel that's something I can handle right now. I've had to step away from it. Right now, I help men who are recovering from alcoholism and drug addiction. I feel like that's my ministry right now. And what my future holds, I don't know, but I do know that I have gotten that personal relationship with God that I was always trying to get through the Watchtower, through pioneering, through Bethel, through going out in field service. And I got it just by asking for it. And I still struggle with a lot of the emotional baggage of coming out of the Watchtower. I'll find feelings of anger come up unexpectedly. I feel like I have trouble making decisions. I'm still figuring out who Jeremy is, and I feel like being in the Watchtower for so long and then leaving. It's like being on a merry-go-round for a long time and then jumping off all of a sudden and trying to get up and walk upright. You go from side to side, you go this way, and I'm vulnerable to emotional extremes sometimes, mental extremes, and slowly I feel like I'm getting my equilibrium back. And I'm so grateful that I didn't give up, and that I have a God who is merciful, who is loving and kind, and I thank you for listening to me, and God bless you all.